Hello all my yarny friends, I'm Sara Sach. Welcome back to my crochet channel. Today we're going to do a video tutorial on the chunky round Lovey blanket. I just love it. It has a good size because it measures about 24 by 24. It's the perfect size for maybe a stroller blanket, tummy time for the baby, or maybe you just want to lay it across them in the car seat or the stroller, or even just in the bassinet where you just want to lay a blanket on them, and then it becomes their favorite blanket. They can take it along with them anywhere because it's not a heavy blanket, even though it is a super bulky number 6 yarn. Now the yarn is called Premier Fable. The colorway is called Gnome. And when you see the demo that I did, I used the same Fable yarn, but I used the yarn called Pixie. And that's because it was a little lighter and it would film a little bit better. Sometimes these really bright colors can get kind of fuzzy in the camera. And I didn't want to have to deal with that. Even though this yarn is absolutely gorgeous, I absolutely love it for this blanket. And how this came about is I have a friend at church who they have tried to have a baby. She's had a couple of miscarriages, and then they decided just to wait a little bit and not worry about it. And guess what? She's having a rainbow baby. And when it's called a rainbow baby, when you've had a child that you've either lost unexpectedly or miscarried, and then the next baby is such a ray of sunshine, it's called a rainbow baby. And so I wanted to make this for her. And she's going to be very tiny. And so I thought this would be the perfect size blanket for a preemie as well as a newborn. And of course, you can make this blanket in any colors that you want. It doesn't have to be rainbow colors. And you can trim it in any colors that you want. It doesn't have to be this white. Now, the reason that I chose the white is because I think it looks, the way we did it, like clouds on the edge of a rainbow. And so I really like the way that it turned out. Okay, so like I said, it measures about 24 by 24 inches. So it is the perfect size for tummy time or strollers or bassinets or just in the crib if you want to just lay the blanket on them. And then they learn to love it and it becomes their favorite cuddle blanket or lovey blanket. One thing I will mention, I do mention at the end of the video how I blocked it because I wanted it to be nice and crisp, and it's a really simple process, and I just talk about that at the end of the video if you want to learn about that. Now you can find the link that has the complete written pattern with lots of pictures on my blog, and I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. All right, so to stitch up our chunky round Lovey blanket, we're using a yarn called Fable. It is a super bulky 6. It is from Premier, and it's also on sale right now with their big summer sale. And the color of this one is called Gnome. But for our demo today, I'm going to use this one because it's a little bit lighter in color, even though the person wanted the brighter color because it's for a rainbow baby. Okay, this is a little lighter in color, so it's a little easier to film. And this one is called Pixie. It's got some light pinks and greens and some lighter teal, a little bit of cream and orange in there. And we're going to use this one for the demo, although this is the actual blanket. And I've not added the trim yet because we're going to use this Premier Basix Chenille Brights for the trim. And you saw that in the pictures at the beginning of the video and how it just looks beautiful, like a round rainbow on a cloud. All right, so you're going to need about 7 ounces of a super bulky number 6 yarn. Now, if you don't have this particular yarn, you can use any super bulky number 6 yarn for this project. I just really loved this one because it was super soft, and I think it's perfect for that blanket that she needs. All right. Now, another option is you can hold 2 strands of a bulky 5 together, or you can hold 3 strands of a medium number 4 and still be able to make this blanket. If you're going to use this for a baby or a child, just make sure you get something that's super soft, okay? This is acrylic. I think it's acrylic and polyester. The polyester is that sort of cross that's going across those stitches that holds that soft, soft yarn together. It's a beautiful yarn. All right, so that's the Premier Fable, and you're going to need about 7 ounces. And for the trim, we're using Premier Basic Chenille Brights in white. It's also a super bulky 6, and you're going to need about 3 ounces, just enough to go around the trim of it, okay? Not a whole lot. And I'm going to be stitching today with my end hook, which is a 9mm. If you want it to be a little more open and more lacy, you can go up to the 10mm and it will still work out just fine. Just watch your tension and make sure it's not rippling up on you. Because when you go to a bigger hook, your stitches are looser and it can kind of get a little ripply on you. All right? But I stitched mine up with the N9mm crochet hook. And then you'll need a needle just to weave in those ends, and make sure you get one with a nice big eye so you can get that thread through there, or that yarn, I should say. And then, of course, a pair of scissors. And of course, we're starting in the center and working our way out in sort of a spiral pattern. All right, so we're going to start with our slip knot. We're going to chain 5. We're going to join that into a circle. We'll tie that stay knot. Now, if you prefer to use the magic circle or another method to make your beginning chain, you certainly can. So we'll go in, pull up a loop, and chain 3. All right, now we're going to stitch 9 double crochets in this circle. Our chain 3 counts as our first, and then we're stitching 9 more double crochets, so we're going to have a total of 10 double crochets for row 1. I do suggest that if you are a tight stitcher, your tension is tight, loosen up a little bit using this yarn. It'll flow better for you, and it'll make a much better appearance when you're finished with your blanket or whatever you're stitching with this yarn. I've made several different things with it. I made a bag, and some other things with this yarn, and I love this yarn, but I have noticed that if you stitch too tightly, it doesn't look as pretty. Just my opinion, of course. All right, let me count since I was talking. Here's our chain 3, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, you will notice I stitched over my tail of yarn. That's so I can close up that hole. Let's go ahead and join to our chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. All right, so what I want to do next is make sure this hole is nice and closed. So I'm going to grab my needle, and when you're working with a thick yarn, it's a good idea to sort of fan out the end a little bit. Fold that over the eye of your needle, and then it makes it a lot easier to thread onto your needle. And I do that with any weight of thread. Once I learned it with the thicker thread that it works great, I do it with all of my weights of thread, or yarn I should say. I don't know why I'm calling it thread today, it's yarn. All right, I want to make sure that's nice and secure, and just clip that off, and you don't have to worry about weaving that in. All right, so we chained 3, we stitched 9 double crochets. Our chain 3 counted as our first, so we have 10 double crochets joined to our chain 3 and chain 3 for row 1. Now we're ready for row 2. We're going to stitch a double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3. There we go. And now we're going to go in that next double crochet and stitch 2 double crochets. 1 and 2, and then we'll stitch 2 double crochets in each of those double crochets around. So since we had 10 in row 1, for row 2 we're going to have 20 double crochets. And again, remember, this yarn I think it works up much better and lays much prettier if you loosen up your tension just a little bit. And if you struggle with that, go ahead and go up to the 10mm crochet hook instead of the 9mm, and it will help you loosen up your tension just a bit. All right? All right, so we're going to place 2 double crochets in each of those double crochets around and join back to our chain 3. 1 double crochet in the same stitch as our chain 3 and 2 in each around, so we have 20 double crochets. We're going to join to that chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. There we go. A little snug. Got to keep it loose. All right, now row 3, of course, is going to be a little bit different. We're not going to stitch in the same stitch as our chain 3. We're going to go to the next double crochet and stitch 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. Now we're going to chain 2. We're going to skip the next double crochet and stitch 1 double crochet in the next, and 2 double crochets in the next. 1 and 2. Chain 2. Skip 1 double crochet, then stitch 1 double crochet in the next, and 2 double crochets in the next. 1 and 2. And chain 2. So you can kind of see what our pattern is. 1 double crochet in the next, 2 in the next, chain 2, skip 1, and repeat. And we'll repeat this around. So I have repeated that. 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets in the next, chain 2, skip 1, and repeat. And you're going to have 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sets of 3 double crochets, skip 1, chain 2. And now we're getting ready to set up how it's going to spiral around. All right, so here's my chain 2. I'm going to join to the chain 3 with a slip stitch, and then I'm going to slip stitch in the next double crochet, and then chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. All right, now we're going to double crochet in the next double crochet. That brings us to the chain 2 space. We're going to stitch 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space. So there's 1 and 2. All right, and now we're going to chain 2. We're going to skip this first double crochet of this group of 3 and double crochet in the next stitch. Then we'll double crochet in the next stitch. Then we'll stitch 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space. 1 and 2, and chain 2. All right, let's take a look at it real quick so you can get an understanding of what we're doing. So we slip stitched in the first stitch, then we slip stitched in the next and chain 3. So that counted as our first double crochet. And so we're off by 1 right here on purpose. Then we double crocheted in the next and 2 in the next. So that gave us 4 double crochets. We chain 2, skip the first double crochet in the next 2, and 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space and chain 2. All right, so we skip the next and double crochet in the next. Then we'll double crochet in the next, 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space, and chain 2. Get that back in there. There we go. My yarn has a little tangle there, so we'll just push it up out of the way there. All right, so now what you're going to see is 4 double crochets, chain 2, and we skip that first double crochet of our 3 double crochet sets. And so your chain 2 space is off from the other one, and that's the way we want that to look as we go around. All right, so we're going to repeat this: chain 2, skip the first one, double crochet in the next 2, 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space, chain 2, and repeat around, and we'll join back to our first chain 3. I have completed row 4. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sets of 4 double crochet, chain 2, around. Okay, so here's our last chain 2 space where we did our last 2 double crochets, chain 2, and again we're going to join to that first chain 3. Again, we're going to slip stitch in the next stitch. There we go. And chain 3. All right, so now we'll place 1 double crochet in the next 2. And that brings us to our chain 2 space where we're going to stitch 2 double crochets in the chain 2 space. 1 and 2. And chain 2. And so instead of having 4 here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because again our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. All right, let's go to this next group of 4. We're going to skip that first stitch. We're going to double crochet in the next, then double crochet in the next 2, and 2 double crochets in that chain 2 space. 1 and 2, and chain 2. And so now you'll see that we're starting our spiral as it goes around. Okay, now this can be a little bit awkward when you're working with a chunky yarn, so you may have to take your time until you get used to it. Working with a bigger crochet hook, working with chunky yarn, especially the bulky 6, can be a little bit clumsy, but just take your time because it's definitely worth it, and it's a beautiful blanket. And the best part about it is it's the perfect last minute shower gift. You find out someone's baby came early and you need a gift, whip one of these up and you'll be doing fine. All right, so we're going to skip the next double crochet in the next, and then the next, and then the next, and then 2 in the chain 2 space, and chain 2. And so we're going to have 7 sets of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with our chain 2 for row 5. So I have completed row 5. And look how big it is already just at row 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On our 5th row, we have 5 double crochets, chain 2, 7 times. And you can see, I want you to look at it. Just focus right down here because I know it's a little bit of a busy yarn, but I want you to see how the chain 2 spaces spiral around. And that's how the pattern will work. As it gets bigger, those chain 2 spaces will move and it'll make a beautiful spiral around. So what you're going to do for 6 more rows is you're going to continue the pattern that we're doing, where you go and join to your chain 3, slip stitch in the next, and then you'll double crochet in the double crochets, and then 2 in the next. So for row 6, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Row 7, you'll have 7. Row 8, you'll have 8. Row 9, you'll have 9. Row 10, you'll have 10. And then row 11, you'll have 11 double crochets in sets of 7 with your chain 2s spiraling around. So basically, you're going to repeat row 5 for 6 more rows, increasing every row. So here is my actual one. And you can see how those chain 2 spaces spiral around, and it's really pretty and makes a nice size. When I measured this, this was about 23 inches without the trim. So now we're going to add the trim, and it'll make it another inch or so. But I wanted you to see how it looked. It's the perfect blanket for the car seat, just throwing something on the baby, in the stroller, maybe in a playpen at home. You just want to, cover them up in the swing or the little seat. It's not for tucking in or anything. It's just to lay them on top. And it's also a really great size for tummy time, for your baby can be on their tummy sometimes too. And tummy time's important as well. And it's so soft and squishy that it'll be super comfortable for the baby, whether it's on them or they're on it. I just love the way that it turned out. So now you can see this was our 11th row, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 double crochets with our chain 2s. And there's 7 sets of those. If you want to make your blanket even bigger, of course, you're going to need more yarn, but you can continue with this pattern, continue to increase every row and make it as big as you would like. Maybe you want a bigger tummy time blanket. You can continue it as long as you want to, for as big a blanket as you would like. All right, now let's add some fun trim. So what we're going to do next is we're going to bring in our white, which I already have, and I chained 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to stitch 1 single crochet in the first double crochet, 2 single crochets in the next, 1 and 2. And then we'll repeat this across 1. Let's get some more yarn out here. 1, 2 single crochets, 1 and 1, 2. Isn't that so pretty? I love it. 1, 1 and 2, 1. Some more yarn. 1 and 2, and that leaves us 1 double crochet, so we'll stitch 1 double crochet, and then in the chain 2 space we're going to stitch 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. So we're doing just a row of single crochets, and we'll continue that all the way around, stitching 1 and 2 in the double crochets, and then 2 single crochets in the chain 2 space. And we'll work this all the way around for the first part of our trim. All right, so 1 and 2, 1 and 2 across the double crochets, and you'll have 1 in that last double crochet, and then in the chain 2 space, stitch 2 single crochets. Solid row of single crochets all the way around the edge of our blanket. I have stitched the single crochet edge all the way around, and now what we're going to do is join. Here's our last 2 single crochets. We're going to join to that first single crochet with a slip stitch and chain 2. We're going to skip the next stitch and slip stitch in the next and chain 2. And this is going to give us just a little bit of a bump on the edge to make it more of a cloud look. Now, if you're having a little trouble finding your stitches, if you look on the top of your work, you can see those 2 loops on each of those stitches. They kind of look like braids. All right, so we're going to skip this one and slip stitch in the next and chain 2. Skip the next, slip stitch in the next and chain 2. Skip the next, slip stitch in the next and chain 2. And see how that gives it just a little bit of a ruffle on there. It's just enough of a ruffle to make it look like a cloud around a rainbow. I just love how it turned out, super pretty. So we're just going to repeat this all the way around. Chain 2, skip the next, slip stitch in the next, chain 2, skip the next, slip stitch in the next, all the way around, and then our Lovey blanket will be finished. So I have completed that last row of trim, and I put it against here so you can see how that ruffle looks. It's just a soft, not really even a ruffle. It just gives it that little extra fluff on the end there, but it's not too much. All right, so I've joined to my first single crochet, and I'm going to tie off. Now, again, tying off with this kind of yarn can be just a little bit difficult. And so we're going to weave it in with our needle. We'll roll it over the side of that needle like we did before and sort of ease that in there. All right, we want to go on the back side, and we've got 2 to weave in, okay? And make sure when you're weaving in that you don't get the white fluffy part in the colorful part, because you'll end up with like a white stitch down in there that won't look good. So my beautiful Lovey blanket is all finished. You can see that edge really nice. Okay, but one thing I noticed is it's not laying quite as flat as I would like it to. So what I'm going to do, and this is the way that I usually block a blanket, is I'll take my blanket, I'll lay out some towels on top of my dryer. Then I'll just take a bottle of water and spritz the towel. I'll lay this on top of the towel, and then I'll spritz the top, and I'll stretch it out so it's nice and flat, because I'm going to be giving this as a gift, and I don't want it puckering up anywhere on me, okay? But what you can see is these lines where it's swirled around, and it looks really pretty in those chain 2 spaces. And it's just a light, it's not a heavy yarn. That's the nice thing about this Fable yarn, is it's light, it's fluffy, and it's so beautiful. And I think it's perfect for this Lovey blanket.